Good morning, Sint Maarten. What's cooking? Let's have a nice chat this morning because we got some real good topics to discuss. Let me just hold on a minute, see if I'm live so that I can kick off this morning. It's a little rainy outside, so we don't have the sunshine we would really want. But hey, that's part of life. Not every day there's sunshine. So I see we are live. Okay, dokie. That makes it a little easier. I hope you can share for me this podcast as you start looking at it. So we are live now and we are good to go. Let me just hold on and see if we get a few more people on board, but I notice they're clicking on faster now. All right. Let me start off with some good news. I realize the chairman of the CFT is gone, and we have now gotten a lady to take over as the new chair of the CFT. And she is well experienced within government, so I think she understands the runnings a little better. And in her introductory media declaration, she said she's going to work very closely with all the islands to ensure that we do everything, the regular blah, blah, blah. Let's hope it's a little better than what it was before, because it was always my impression that the former chairman, or he's still the chairman, on the 1st of February he's gone, that his intent was to execute the orders of the Kingdom Council of Ministers, and in particular, the former, he was just said, the former member of the Second Chamber, Dr. Anders Raymond Knops, who has also resigned from the Second Chamber in the Netherlands. He has left politics altogether now. Some good things for Sint Maarten. So, after 3 years, the interrogations will start in the Mullet Bay inquiry behind closed doors. And I hope that they tape these interrogations, as they call them. I would want to believe it's more question and answer situation, because they're going to need these if they go to trial. Because I know in this Mullet Bay saga, it's not going to finish. At present, there's a court case has been started in the District of Virginia, I believe, where Mrs. Ansari, the daughter of Hussein Ansari, Nina Ansari, took the Central Bank of Curaçao and Sint Maarten to court for allegedly stealing her land, and she wants $110 million after they robbed the Enya insurance for over 1 billion guilders. It's to show you the type of people we're dealing with. No shame box whatsoever. For them, it's all about the money. It's all about the Benjamins. I am happy that the 12.5% has been taken off the books now. The Council of Ministers in the Netherlands has now allowed everybody to get their 12.5%. So I hope the government of Sint Maarten publishes the 12.5% law removal in the National Gazette, so the companies that have been now saying they can't pay their employees yet the 12.5% and give it back to them on their salary because the law has not been formalized is just ludicrousy. But it's happening right now. So let's hope that they put it in the National Gazette and the people will be able to get their money and they go back, their salaries go back to normal, because all cuts that were made, be it vacation days, be it vacation allowance, whatever it was, is gone. Everything is gone. Everything goes back to prior to the 12.5% laws. So let's hope everything goes good and we get this thing done. And I hope that the business community can start paying their employees the normal thing. Now, it is remarkable, to put it mildly, that since the approval of the Mullet Bay motion of MP Emmanuel, everyone seems to have a destination plan for Mullet Bay. Prior to that motion, it was crickets. The workers at the towers can't get their money. It was crickets. Now that the motion has passed, everybody got plans for Mullet Bay. Do me a big favor, remain a cricket. You were once a cricket, remain the cricket. Also, I noticed that our king, our queen, and our princess to become queen is visiting the island, I believe next week sometime. And they're going to be visiting various institutions where we do agriculture, nature, preservations, recycling, and they will be meeting with our youngsters, and I'm extremely happy for that. Naturally, because of their coming to St. Maarten also, a lot of road repairs have started. Hopefully they will be cleaning up the roadsides also, and the country will look a little cleaner than it presently looks. A special congratulations to Mr. Vanterpool, Leo Vanterpool, who is the first documentary specialist. So I know we have a lot of them that are document 1 and 2, but we only have one in the region that is a documentary specialist that is well trained in detecting fraud within documents that goes through the immigration all of the time. Now, what has me baffled was an ad in the newspaper by the Ministry of Education. They are looking for a consultant to review the foundation-based education and evaluate it. I am completely lost. Foundation-based education has failed this country, period. There's no discussion on that. We all know that. It has been evaluated through the country packages. Now we want to go evaluate the evaluation? Man, get rid of that thing and fix the educational system in St. Maarten. What are we doing? Wasting money that we don't have? Job creation for somebody again? This is just ludicrousy. Honest to God, I really do. We have failed our children with this foundation-based education. We have failed them. You all got to accept that. You cannot dance around that. Let's move on, man. Let's get something better now. So, we got some songs there, here. The minister sings in his office every day. And one of them is Rain, Rain, Go Away. The minister wants to save some money, and the king is coming. You know, the Arrow Jr., he had that song, I think it was for King of Kings. He sang the song, The King is Coming, and he was coming for his throne. And now that song is being played because the visit is upon us, and the roads need to be fixed, and the country needs to be cleaned. But I hope they realize the mockery they're making by doing this out of the king's visit. You all need to understand this well. And I liked the article of MP Emmanuel when he spoke about the dangers we are being put in by an incompetent minister. Nothing was done on Front Street for years. Now suddenly, we're up and down running, pointing out the things that have been done wrong for the past 3 years. When I say they were done wrong, it's because we did nothing. We allowed them to fester. Now the king is coming, and we need to fix it up fast. Or was it because the Minister of Theatre walked down Front Street and you didn't want to be upstaged? You see, these are the problems that we need to work with. I understood in the grapevines that the district cleaning contracts might be ready to be signed off and given off. Let's hope so. Let's hope that at least this time around, there's no hanky-panky with the contracts. We all know what happened with the garbage collection, and I know that's not done. So let's hope, for God's sake, that this time around, no craziness going down with the district cleaning contracts. But again, we'll see. We had a blunder in Parliament last week, and at least the Daily Herald carried that story well about the chairman of Parliament and the whole presentation by the minister and the UNOPS and MP Heiliger, MP Westcott, and all the shortcomings of the chair. I don't know what to say. I just enjoyed that show. But there were some interesting numbers that came out of the presentation of the minister that I would want to address maybe sometime this week. The presentation did not answer the questions whatsoever. The question, the fundamental question was, what's going to happen with the people up there? What happens with their health care and what happens with the food? They were striking for days, and those were the reasons. We can talk about the flow, who gonna move there. The people had an issue with health care, and the people had an issue with their food. And there was also a plight for a prisoner that has a mental status issue that was to be released on good behavior, earlier, whatever they call it, 2/3 sentence he sat and then he would be released. And on the floor of Parliament, it was stated that that won't happen. These are things that happened during that meeting, and I don't know what to say at this point in time. I want more information. I'm going to call all those in authority and try to get proper information, and then I'll take it from there. But again, once again, another black eye for the Parliament of Sint Maarten. Congratulations to Mrs. Natalie Tacklin, for taking the chair at APS. I want to thank the Minister of Finance. I know of the battle to get her there. There were other candidates that they wanted there. It seems that certain people will not move aside to give younger people a chance. Now, younger people, though, have to be competent to do it. Again, the pension fund is a very robust operation with millions, hundreds of millions being invested in portfolios. And I hope that it was a good choice, and I hope that she makes us all proud. Now, I have a serious problem I want to address this morning, and I hope all are listening, because it behooves me how it is possible that a parcel of land by the zoo is given out to a person in Sint Maarten. I won't bring names into the equation yet, but if I can't get the right answers this week, I'm going to bring out all the names involved. Is given a parcel of land. A group of investors from St. Bart's reached Sint Maarten, building a new concrete plant, bringing in trucks from abroad, while we have 3 concrete producing plants on this island already, on the Dutch side. We have Bopsy, we got Central Mix, and we got St. Maarten Concrete. So where does MRC fit in? Who behind MRC? That story gonna break this week yet. Because all of those that going out there promising people things, crap are gonna smoky pipe just now. This is an election year, you all said, right? I'm gonna show you how it works when you got the facts. So all of those that cut a deal over there, get ready, because I want to know who granted permission to sublet it to these people. Because it was sublet. And if it wasn't sublet legal, then we're going to shut down the operations very fast. So all those involved, get ready. We're going to have a dance. Seemingly over the weekend, there was an issue at GB. Now that engines can break down, that's factual. That's normal. I've worked down there. I know how that works. What is not normal is that all of that oil that was probably mixed with water ended up on the beach. That's my concern. Now, I'm going to go down there later to take some pictures. But that one has me bothered because it started at night, when there was nobody out there looking at what was happening. I didn't hear nothing from Nature Foundation. I didn't hear nothing from anybody. So I am hoping that it was properly contained. But the information reaching me is that's not the case. So I hope, I tried to call the management of GB. I was unsuccessful. I believe that was also part and parcel reason for the blackouts. That's the island-wide blackout we had yesterday. And unfortunately, for many businesses, they lost a lot of business because they had the NFL football games on, and naturally without current, they ain't gonna work. So let's hope we don't have this problem again. Let's hope it was solved, and let's hope that no oil really reached the sea and the beach. All right, so we still don't have a balanced budget 2023. And now the Council of Ministers, the Minister of Finance, whomever does normally take the blow for that, has received an instruction from the Kingdom Council of Ministers. And they must have the budget ready by March 31st, 2023, as stipulated in the advice by CFT. Remember, CFT already created a major problem with 2022 and said the budget is not acceptable because they are 30 million over the allotted deficit of 40 million. So 2022 was to have a 40 million guilder deficit. It ended up with a 70 million guilder deficit. And CFT did not agree with the amended budget and sent it packing. That naturally also has an effect on 2023, besides 2023 having to be balanced. Now, I am going to support, I'm going to go out on a limb here for the Minister of Finance, that he stating this. He cannot, at this point in time, balance the budget. For the simple reason, we don't have an agreement on the liquidity loans, which are due in October for nearly 300 million. So there is no way he could balance the budget. A budget of 450, 460 million, and you have a deficit in loans to pay this year in October for 300 million. That means your budget would have been 760 million to be balanced. Can't happen. We all should know that. But hopefully, someplace in February or March, we'll have an agreement on the refinancing that the Netherlands agreed to. So let's hope that happens now, early February, that there's a possibility that they can come to a consensus how they're going to refinance, which amount they will be giving as a grant to be used in the country packages to do something. I mean, I don't know what's going to come out of it. I hope the best for the country. But at this point in time, it is not realistic to expect a balanced budget as long as there is no agreement on the refinancing of these loans. So for that, I'll stand with the government. But that the budget isn't ready? No, I can't stand with the government for that because too many promises were made. There were a lot of times said, oh, we have it this time, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do that, and we haven't accomplished what we set out to do. To go blame people right now, I don't think is the best thing. I think it is more important that we get to the bottom of everything and say, okay, what do we need to finish budget 2023? How can we accomplish such? I think that's important for the minister to now come out and tell the public of Sint Maarten. It's the end of January. He has been given an instruction, or the government has been given an instruction, so at least come out now and say what it's going to be. Again, I spoke about it last week, about the scooters and the way forward with the scooters. Lo and behold, a smash and grab again. On Front Street, broad daylight, 2 scooters involved. Now, again, we need to see what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. I'm not going to tell the government what to do. I'm just going to advise you all that we need to work with each other, not against each other. The police is trying their utmost to keep Front Street, Back Street, those areas safe. They are asking not to allow traffic to go through them. The businesses believe that if the cars drive through, they'll get more business. I don't know on which statistics they have that. I don't know if they have somebody in front of their stores. I know they got backers that when a car stops and somebody gets out and goes into the stores and buys something and they make a little note, car stop, buy something. So we got one. That they can say they need a flow of cash through Front Street to ensure they can sell. I think that's not true. I think you're putting the cat, the horse behind the cat in this one. If safety is important, you are going to have to go along with the police on this thing and minimize traffic through Front Street. There's deliveries, there are emergencies. I agree with all those things. But the way we have it right now, we have to fix that better. And I hope that everybody is realizing what's happening. Look, the robbers are well aware that the police ain't on the cars. They know that. They know they short of material. We don't address that problem. So the robberies can continue. Don't fool ourselves. As long as I don't do what needs to be done, they're going to continue punishing us until we do it. The Diamond Hill Massacre. That's how we're going to call it. Some people wanted to know why I didn't send nothing. And maybe it's because I know who did it. I have a name. I have a name of the contractor. And I have a name of the person that gave the instruction. Because I don't have the proof, I will not mention their name. But I'll say two things. The contractor is a well-known contractor in this island, was involved in some of these big cases they had with the TBO. And this person that gave the instruction is well tied to a politician in this government presently. Not in the coalition necessarily, not in the opposition necessarily, in the government, in the parliament. So let's go talk about it. Now, what happened in Diamond Hill is an outright shame and, in my opinion, a crime. Why a crime? Because this is not a Johnny come lately went and knocked that down at night. They full well knew what they were doing. There are two properties in that development that have not been able to sell yet. That was one of them because of the ruins on it. Nobody wants to buy a property with a ruin that when they go and ask for a permit, they are told, oh, no, that's a monument, so we can't grant you a permit for that. And then they're stuck with a parcel of land that they cannot use. So what are they advising the owner? Knock it down. Just rip it down and it's A-OK. No, it's not A-OK. Because Article 28A of the IRAP clearly states you need a demolition permit or a land clearing permit. That was passed, that was put in the National Gazette. So the contractor that had an excavator out there broke the law. Point, bottom line, that's not a discussion, that's a fact. The contractor that's on record, that's for the minister to go deal with by the prosecutor's office when he files a complaint. But they should file it. Because if you don't stand your ground when monuments, because it was a monument, it was not on the list, but it was a monument. It's over 50 years old and it had archaeological heritage and cultural value to this country. Those are three of the four terminologies that determines a monument. The other one is the environment. So it is known to all involved that it was a monument. They knew what it was. But you know what the problem is? This is not the onlyest monument they mashed up there in that area. You see all those new condos flying up there? They ripped asunder every slave wall that was there to build those condos. Slave walls are monuments in Sint Maarten. But who checks? Nobody seemingly. Or do they check but they are told not to worry about that? You see, it's gonna start to get touchy. This one gonna get touchy. Because too many people have now made an outcry. So government has no other alternative but to dig and dig deep. Because they're going to have to find a scapegoat to blame for this one. Who that scapegoat is, I leave that to government. I think they're well versed on how to do those things. So let's see. But again, there's too many things happening. Mind you, if I read the article correct, or the Facebook article, I don't know which one it was, according to me, the government has been in discussions with the owner of this land on 2, maybe 3 occasions, asking him to use it for the Emancipation Day celebrations, for the Diamond Hill Run. They brought, for God's sakes, the Dutch delegation down there when they came here to talk about slavery and reparations. They were down there. They spoke to the people. They showed them everything. The one thing they didn't do was make it a monument. Why? Why not start the process? If the process was started, I will apologize from now. But I get the feeling that there was no process started. There was a list made back in 2005, I believe it was, or 2007, and that's the last list they ever had. I think there were 50 something or 100 monuments on it. And normally, the government just goes and makes something a monument once it meets the criteria. For one reason or the other, this government said, no, we ain't going to do that because we have been confronted with some court cases because of arbitration, decision making. Well, you realize what it means, right? When you don't do it, then lick your ass down. That's what they do. And where you going to go back now? You're going down there with cement and put back up the blocks? Man, you all ain't serious. You're talking about heritage, this, heritage, that. But when you have to protect it, you're not there. But when they have photo ops, you're down there. You see, this is my problem with this whole thing. I get irked by the hypocrisy that comes out of people's mouths after these things happen. That's my problem with this thing. See the bamboo house there? That's another one. Part of the bamboo house is part of the old plantation. So it's a monument. Yet we allow it to be dressed up with all kind of other things around it, deforming the monument. Because the monument itself isn't the monument. It's a big restaurant now with a lot of buildings and swimming pools and all kind of things. Like it or not, that's the fact. That's where it is that we need to deal with these things. I see you're talking about Spanish Fort. I will come to that because that one up on Fort William there's a bigger issue with that. I'll come to that one later. Again, on the lands, beside the bamboo house, beside where they knocked down the bastion, there are more ruins on that property. Will the government step in now and take that property off of the properties that anybody could sell until a proper investigation is done of that whole property? Can Jay Harrison be called in and asked to please go down there and document it? According to me, information I received, up by the bamboo house, there's also a cemetery. Has anybody looked into that to protect that? Are we just excavating away and building away? These are the things that we need to understand, that we cannot just talk about it if we're not planning to do something about it. Because that's our biggest problem. Right now, all I can do is talk about it. I'm not sitting in a position for now to make a change. But that can change just now. And when that changes, some people are going to have to explain to me better when I'm sitting in Parliament what for craziness is going on in this country. Since I gone for a year, a lot of crazy things have happened. All in the name of keeping a government together. I don't know. I want to see if they're going to issue a building permit. I honestly want to see that, because I am now flabbergasted. Honestly, I am flabbergasted in how this works. It is not normal. This is not normal. I'm sorry to tell you all. I don't have the words to say what I want to really say, and I can't say it on Facebook. They're going to ban me. But I'll tell you this much. We all know who said, I cannot accept an apology if the 12.5% ain't gone. Well, the 12.5% gone. The Bastion knocked them. They came and talked here, and all we do is blah, 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 blah about heritage. But meaning it has absolutely no value for most of the people in government. Absolutely none. It is a good talking tool. We're in an election year. Campaign time will come just now. So we're going to deal and talk about all those things. But again, at the end of the day, the one thing that we are not doing is protecting our heritage. We can talk all we want. But if we, those, and when I say we, those responsible for the monuments and the heritage of this country, that ministry will either put money to take care of these things. It was a group of people that went last week, Saturday, gone there, clean up Foga. Because if it's up to the government, it could fall asunder. They don't care. They don't even maintain it. This is our problem. We put things on paper, but we don't give them value. And as long as we don't do that, please, people get tired of it. Stop talking about it, because you're not making sense anymore. This topic here is, I believe, one of the most interesting ones I've written in a long time. A cold carnival and the second chamber. And you might ask me, what do you mean with a cold carnival? Well, it's a literal translation of a title that I took out of the Kadushi columns, titled Nkau de Kermis. In that story that was written, many relevant questions and political observations were made that reflected the behavior of all involved, and also the political games of the D66 in torpedoing the CDA-led Coho, those days Mr. Knops, and the demise of that law. Also, in the debate of the second chamber last week, there were some very interesting facts revealed. So, for us here in Sint Maarten, there are a few things that are very important that I think we need to keep focus on, and don't just allow things to go anyway moving forward when it comes to the replacement of the Coho laws, the so-called mutual agreements. Now, it is my understanding that a mutual agreement is between me and somebody else. So I expected a mutual agreement to be between Sint Maarten and the Netherlands when it would come to the country packages. Not a mutual agreement between me, the Netherlands, Curacao, and Aruba, as now the State Secretary is saying, but that's how it's going to be, because all four of us going to have to decide to terminate that mutual agreement. And it won't be a unilateral decision. So Sint Maarten can't jump up and say, I'm done with this agreement, I don't agree with this agreement, I want out, blah, blah, blah. Can't walk. That's not how it's going to be done. These were the words of the State Secretary on Wednesday last on the floor of the second chamber when the meeting was chaired by Urine Reuter, replacing her colleague for the Kingdom the Kingdom Government, the Constitution and the Kingdom Affairs Committee. This is what was said. Now, if this is going to be how it is, I don't know. But you know what? The secrecy around this mutual agreement by the Prime Minister is scaring the shit out of me. Because right now, somebody cooking up a pot of sauce. They're going to poison the population of Sint Maarten. This ain't the first time some get poisoned, but this one going to be across the board. Because this one going to have serious repercussions for the country itself. Not just for a handful, but for the country. Now we got to be careful. Because remember, a mutual agreement puts the parliament on the sideline. Mutual agreements are signed off and agreed upon by governments. So the government in The Hague and the government in Philipsburg will agree on the mutual agreement that will replace the Coho law that should have been voted on by the Parliament of Sint Maarten for its approval. Since the Parliament of Sint Maarten was doing so difficult, the Dutch said, you know what? Let's play them with their own game. We're going to throw out the Coho law and we're going to make a mutual agreement to be signed by 4 governments. But no parliaments now. So we're going to call it a consensus law. We're going to call it a kingdom consensus mutual agreement that you still can't get out of. Different name, same craziness. The difference is now, Parliament, the people's representatives, have been sidelined from agreeing to anything, or objecting to anything, or debating anything. Because we can debate all we want. The only way we can tell the government, you're not going to do that, is by poking a motion on them. And if they don't do it, you send them home instead of go vote party lines. I said nothing is wrong, it's okay, don't get all excited and blah, stop the fear mongering. Because that's what they do. That's what they do. The ombudsman said fraud was committed. And 8 people went into parliament and voted to allow the fraud to stand. And tell the High Council of the Ombudsman, stop it. You're making it personal. You hear what I tell you? This is the danger that this country faces with this government right now. Because it's not always about what's right. That's the problem. If it was about that, I would have had no fear. But that's not the way it works, unfortunately for us. So we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen. But I think it's important that the country of Sint Maarten and the people of Sint Maarten understand what this means. The parliament has been sidelined with the mutual agreement. That's 1. 2, the mutual agreement now seems to be between all 4 countries and not Sint Maarten and the Netherlands, Curacao and the Netherlands, Aruba and the Netherlands. No, it seems to be Sint Maarten, Curacao and Aruba and the Netherlands all together have one. So there must be a mutual agreement between Sint Maarten and Curacao too. And Sint Maarten and Aruba too. But a mutual agreement for what? We are having the Coho was an overarching body that was going to check everybody and do what they had to do and keep every government in check, fix the laws as they needed them. That's what they were going to do. And the Council of State said, absolutely not. You are destroying the autonomy of those countries. So that was their arrival. So they needed to create something new. And this creation of these mutual agreements have now been intertwined in such a way, as explained so eloquently in the second chamber last week, that Sint Maarten is up for a serious challenge. I don't think they understand what's at stake anymore. But again, we are known in Sint Maarten to collapse under pressure. When we hear the word instruction, we fill our pants. I'll give you a few. I'll show you just now in a few of these so-called mutual agreements that have done this country no good whatsoever. You have to understand that in this mutual agreement, financing is going to have to be regulated. And there was 1 billion guilders made available, 1 billion euros made available, if I'm not mistaken myself, if I can remember well, for this package. Now, that 1 billion euros, Aruba got 900 million florine for liquidity support. Curacao got 900 million Antillean guilders, Caribbean guilders, whatever we want to call them, for financial support, and Sint Maarten got 300. Together, that's about 2.1 billion guilders, approximately 1 billion euros. So, if they would say, Sint Maarten, your share of 300 million guilders that you owe in debt will be now moved towards projects that you don't have to pay it back, but you will have to, out your budget, pay your projects, then that's one way that might work for us, because our debt ceiling would drop immensely when that 300 million is removed and put over into projects. The problem I see there is, will we be able to garnish 300 million over the next 4 or 5 years to do this? Personally, I don't think so, unless we come with a new tax stream, like I have been talking about all too often. Bring import duties of 8%, drop turnover tax permanently, and have a surplus of about 50 million a year, and I think you would be able to pay a lot of things in the next 6 to 10 years. But again, we got to learn to think out of the box first as a government and as a people, and then hopefully we can do some of these things. But I don't see that happening yet, so I don't know how this is going to work with the financial aspect in the mutual agreement. And because nothing is going to Parliament and there's no discussion about it, I hold my hat. I seriously hold my hat. So again, I don't know what's going to happen there, but I think we need to remember that all the rejoicing most of them did, that Coho is gone, might be the worst rejoice that they have done thus far. But we will see. But let me give you some mutual agreements that we have worked on since 2015. You all can remember the asset recovery team? Our asset recovery team had as goal that anybody who received monies or made monies through crime, that they would take that back from you. The problem is that we have a court process. First instance, appeals, and then cassation, Supreme Court. The minute you are convicted, mostly in first instance, they're then grabbing your stuff and selling it. So they take your house, they sell it for, I know there was just a case with the CEO of the harbor. They sold his house. He got 30 cents on the dollar for his house. Now, they got paid back because he was fully acquitted. Guess who has to pay this? The state. The state has to pay this. They took a boat sometime back there from a gentleman, a fancy boat. They sold the boat to a partner. He had to give back the boat. The American who owned the boat took him to courts in New York. When the prosecutors then realized that they are on the docket to answer what was going on, because they confiscated an American's property and auctioned it for a crime he wasn't involved in, Bacchanal started. The asset recovery team did not work, is not really working, or it is not working properly. And nobody says nothing. But this was one of these mutual agreements that we signed off on that did not yield the results we truly had hope it would do. Because in the asset recovery, crime does pay. The Crown witness in the Larimar case kept his money. He was allowed to keep his money. The same dirty money he made. But the other, he had to pay back a lot of money and go sit time. So you see, you can't pick and choose though and say it's justice because Lady Justice is blind. That's the confusion I have with it. The border control and the Coast Guard. What exactly has this Coast Guard border control done for us when it comes to the immigrants? The undocumented immigrants that reach here every day. Every day they reach. And I understand people come from a different country to, how would I say, to work, to get money to send back home. But there's so many undocumented people in Sint Maarten right now working that the great economy that showed its ugly face during the pandemic is still around. And then my question is, so what's really happening? What exactly is it delivering other than stopping a few boats with drugs that passing through Sint Maarten to go elsewhere? And we paid a lot of money for this. So these are questions that might need answering a little better by those. The integrity chamber. For many, this seems to be a serious waste of time and money. And you saw what happened the last time in Parliament, where one of the leaders of a political party slashed the budget for hundreds of thousands of the integrity chamber. And the problem now is we are going to have to foot a bill for an institution that seemingly we didn't want, but under the disguise of we're going to poke an instruction on you, the then Minister of Justice and Prime Minister signed off on it. So again, like I said, we also had the revised penal code. I went through that one myself. When I got into Parliament, they wanted to change the penal code. And when we started going through the penal code, we realized that this is crazy what they were trying to do, because there would have been no need for judges of instructions or anything anymore, because that would have now been the task of the prosecutor's office, and the laws were not in favor of people that have perceived committing a crime. So under the disguise of FACTA, that we were promoting money laundering and promoting terrorism financing, which none of the two has ever been proven here in any case of law, we had to approve this penal code. The penal code was then trashed out with the present Minister of Justice. I must say thank you to her. And we were able to show that there was a lot of non-reporting to the competent authorities done. And when that was done, we were all in good compliance. So you see, had we not dug our heels into the ground, especially MP Bryson and myself, and MP Brian Peterson, we'd have been talking a different story today. But again, these are the type of things that we have to guard against, especially when you talk about mutual agreements. Because all the previous things I mentioned there were mutual agreements. This is the problem. Nothing wrong with a mutual agreement. But if you don't understand what you're signing, do yourself a big favor, don't sign it. Unless your intention was to screw the country. Because then, yeah, go ahead. Because that's what you're doing. Now, when I looked at the second chamber, because this is where things really went sour last week, Wednesday. Especially the VVD and the CDA. These were the parties in power in the last Rutte 3 government, because D66 wasn't really there. And they have mixed feelings, they say right now, that we're going to sign a mutual agreement, and they were upset that politicians were rejoicing that Coho was gone, and they saw this more as a photo op situation and enhancing their profiles, how this stopped this and how this stopped that. And I'm saying to myself, we got bigger things to worry about than who taking a picture on this one. But again, during the debate last week, it was interesting to see how they were talking. They went as far as stating that the young people of the country are fearing for their future and will have to pay for the mistakes of today if the reforms aren't implemented. Again, this is to show you how disconnected people are. Because the COHO was a supervisory body to ensure that the country packages were implemented. At present, the TWO is the organization that is helping the countries independently to ensure the country packages are implemented. Holland just said that Sint Maarten is doing an excellent job in implementing their country packages. Yet here you get representatives of the CDA and the VVD saying, oh, but all the young people saying different. That's not true. Maybe your group of young people saying different, but not those in Sint Maarten. That government is not doing what it has to do for the people of Sint Maarten, that's a different story. But that don't have nothing to do with country packages. That don't have nothing to do with that. The problem is, you all blocked some of the things in the country packages, like the tax reform, that seniors would have had relief today, that other people would have had relief today, and that the country would have had more breathing space and more buying power. But you all opted to put on the COHO, and out of the COHO off the table, it back by, I don't know where, it back someplace. Only God knows where exactly. But again, what I'm trying to say is that in this mutual agreement, one of the people told the state secretary, remember that the devil is in the details. That's what the devil is. And I just gave you one of those details, that all islands are part of the mutual agreement, and that all islands must be able to say no. There is no unilateral seceding from the mutual agreement. So this mutual agreement is a kingdom consensus mutual agreement. It's not a mutual agreement between two countries. This is very important for all to know. Because I don't think that the government of Sint Maarten, Curaçao, Aruba made that clear to their people. COHO gone. So everybody says consensus law gone. What nobody seems to have picked up on, but thank God it was stated last week, is that there is a kingdom consensus mutual agreement. And unilateral seceding is not an option. According to the state secretary, and it's only possible with the consent of the other three countries. The initial term of the mutual regulation will be 4 years, and there will be a possibility to extend it 2 years each time. So it can be extended 5 times for another 10 years. This is what the state secretary stated to the second chamber in the Netherlands, to make sure that everybody understands what she is doing. So I need to ask this fundamental question. Madam Prime Minister, can you explain the public of Sint Maarten exactly what's happening now? Because the cat out of the bag. The cat is out the bag now. We have COHO in the form of a mutual agreement. So you sidelined your own parliament. That's what you did. Say that on Wednesday, please. That you had no confidence in them anymore, so you opted to sideline them and go to a mutual agreement, so where the government alone can sign off. You don't need parliament for this anymore. Hopefully, we will then understand what's really going to be done and how it's going to be done. Because right now, it's picture perfect to me that the government is going to do what they believe needs to be done, not what the parliament representing the country believes needs to be done. So, let's see. Hopefully, we will get something, and hopefully, it will be something good. The State Secretary also stated that the CFT go hang around. And MP Reuter, Urine had asked, if it could be a little more lenient, and they said absolutely not. To the contrary, it got to be stricter. We got to really make sure that the monies they're going to make available for the country packages are properly spent. So, it can only get worse. Instead of just doing budget control to ensure that the budget, when made, was made correctly and represents the reality on the ground, it has now also become the mechanism that is going to ensure that the monies that are spent correctly. So, we know where we stand. Let's hope the Prime Minister is honest enough to tell the people of Sint Maarten where we stand. This next topic is going to be one that is a little controversial, but I believe it's very important that we deal with it. Regulating sex work and workers. Now, what do I mean with this? Look, at present, there's another issue in Holland when it comes to the sex workers, the sex industry, and in particular, the part of the women. When I look at the article, because I read an article where in the Netherlands they are busy making some changes to the law, and the changes are basically in 3 areas. A safe and healthy place to work, that the ladies aren't coerced or forced to do the work, and 3, that they are not trafficked. These 3 things are not properly regulated enough in the law, and the Dutch have decided they're going to make these changes, so now they are in the consultation phase of the law, and they are looking at how they can do this. Now, they want to ensure that every business and every prostitute has a business license so the government can keep properly controls and taps on the industry. That's where they want to go with this new law, the changes within the law. Now, why did this catch my attention? This caught my attention because of the cases we have had here in the past when it comes to the brothels. Remember, we have had 3 brothels that were really under the loop, and owners got prison sentences. Some of them sat their time already, others are in appeal, and it all had to basically do with the sex industry in Sint Maarten when it became a target of the RST-TBU. And again, they were talking there about human trafficking and coercion. So women were forced to perform sexual acts. And you have to put this in light with the permits that are granted for women to come to Sint Maarten. Because remember, they used to come here as animeermeisjes, entertainment girls. And the entertainment was never specialized. It was never specified correctly. Was it a dancer? They would give lap dances. Was it that they would do sexual acts? Well, what was it? Was never clear in the permit, other than they were here as an animeermeisje. I can recall back when we used to have commissioners, that there was a commissioner said, absolutely, I am not signing those permits. I don't agree with it, and I wholeheartedly support that commissioner. But the bottom line is this. On one side, we're not regulating it, and on the other side, we are prosecuting the people for it. So what is it? Are they out there trafficking these women? Because the reason we use for that is we state that the people, the women that come to St. Maarten and are involved in prostitution, let's please call it what it is, are women that come from a weaker economical economy, a weaker economy than the one from St. Maarten. So if you come from a poor country to St. Maarten, it is because we're going to traffic you, we misusing you, we locking you up, etc., etc., etc. This is what's happening. Now, in Holland, they're addressing this matter at this point in time. But again, for me, what does it mean here in St. Maarten? We always talking about concordance, the law should be the same. Now, again, prostitution is not legal in St. Maarten. I have never seen that law pass, that prostitution is legal. That we tolerate it, that's a different story. That's a whole different story. Marijuana is not legal in the Netherlands, it's tolerated. That too is a whole different story. So the question is very simple. Where do we go from here? When will we regulate it? Telling me that they are entrepreneurs and they have to have a tax number, a crib number to pay taxes? Please, man. Regulate this thing properly. We're going to have to do it if we are going to continuously allow it to happen. But again, here in St. Maarten, we lock up people because they hold a passport of somebody in safekeeping because they share rooms and the opportunity that a passport can be stolen is big. Unless they walk with their passports all day. Or if you lock up a place at night and you have somebody staying there with a key who is the security in the event something would happen, you are saying no, you're imprisoning the women. You see, it's how you look at it. It's how you make the story sound and how we take it from here. I am saying regulate these things. Once regulated, it shouldn't be a problem. But we are not regulating it. We're allowing this to just fester. And that's unfortunately. You see, I know that in the Netherlands, they want to give everybody a business license. That means the pimps too. Because not all prostitutes in the Netherlands work in the red light districts. They have escort services, all kind of other things. So how do you regulate that here? Because we have escort services in St. Maarten too. We have that here too. We mightn't want to say we have it, but we have it. And it makes a lot of money for a lot of people. And again, nothing against whoever wants to practice that profession, you know. That's not my concern. My concern is it should be properly regulated. And that it is not. Now, it would be interesting to see what kind of business licenses we would give out in St. Maarten to those type of businesses. Because right now, all of them operate under a hotel license. Yeah, you hear me right? So if tomorrow one of the big hotels here put some of those girls on the top floor and tell their clients, listen, upstairs, we got a little good, a good time thing, don't go read, because you're allowing it all across the island. You see, this is the problem. We got to regulate it because we are not regulating it. Right now it's a hotel, you go and rent a room there, you do what you got to do, and you move on. I don't understand. I don't understand it. So maybe, just maybe, we can come out and regulate it. But again, it's clear that because of morals and values, we don't want to talk about these things. We leave them there, no, out of sight, out of mind. No, it's not. It's not. Because a lot of people have looked at this and said, you know, this is a lucrative business. If I got to use my body to make money. Others use their body to swim. Some use it to run. Some use it to do hard labor. Some use it to do this. And they make good money. Because you know what's happening right now? In Sint Maarten, a lot of people are using the term payment of bills with sex. And we might laugh about it. Some might say, oh my God, is that really happening? Sure it is. But nobody says nothing about it. You know how many mothers have it very difficult and depend on income from a sugar daddy? A lot. A lot do. And they get things, and in return, they have sex. Not for love, but for necessity. And this, people, is the problem. Because when we reach in this part of the discussion, people shut down. People don't want to talk about it. People don't want nothing to do with it. But unfortunately, it's a reality we got to deal with in Sint Maarten. And it is better we do it now than that we don't do it and eventually it becomes a norm. Let's move on. Education for special needs children. I briefly mentioned this last week and I decided to go do some research myself and see what's really happening because it bothered me from the moment I spoke about it last week. I have spoken to various parents that have children that were in the school that is closing tomorrow. That's the Excellent Learning Academy, the ELA. I even had a meeting with the principal there, Mrs. Brooks, and I decided, you know what? Let me go and really see what's happening. So I went to the school itself just to see what's happening, and it broke my heart. I ain't gonna lie to you. Not a very emotional person, but that brought tears to my eyes. Those children, the love they have for their teachers, the understanding their teachers have for them. Not everything is money. Not everything. These kids, they need special attention. Minister of Education, I need you to listen to me very good now. Take that nonsensical idea out of your head that you can send these children to the Prince William Alexander School or the vocational training school. They don't fit in. These children have different needs than those kids. Totally different needs. 2 years ago, Minister, you were in Parliament with us when we discussed exactly that matter. With the same Mrs. Brooks, the Prince William Alexander School were there, all of us were in there. And we discussed it. 2 years later, you put in the media that you're still working on the policy, but you got a temporary solution. Temporary solution by putting them in Prince William Alexander School or the Sint Maarten Vocational School is craziness. That is complete ludicrousy. But I'll give you a solution today, because most of you all don't think out of the box. You're not solution oriented. You're not even result oriented anymore. But let me tell you what I believe is a solution. Because the institution lost its support from the Sint Maarten development funds because it fell in arrears with premiums that it had to pay. And because of that, I understood the funding was pulled, which is more than normal because that's one of the agreements that you have, that you stay current with your premiums. So they also understood that, and there's no crying about that. But what I have a serious problem with is that Khalil, the reason they are not funding them is because they're not recognizing the school. They're not recognizing the Ella as an institution to do this. While they do nothing themselves, while government does absolutely nothing to deal with these children, they don't want to recognize the ones that have been trying for years to do something good for them. And when you speak with the mothers and the fathers, most of them have seen a lot of progress with their children. One is even getting ready to do the GED. It's showing you that if you know how to get to these children, they can excel. A child has the right to education. This country speaks of compulsory education in the law. Yet, we do not provide proper education. Putting a child in a school where they don't belong is not adhering to compulsory education. It's making a mockery out of compulsory education. It's making a mockery out of the law of the child, where a child has a right to proper education. Now, these children need education. And since at this point in time, the organization that has been doing it for years cannot continue, I want to propose the following. I need the government, and maybe the Minister of VSAC can assist us in this one, Minister Otley, because he gets things done most of the time, can call upon SFV and call upon the White and Yellow Cross. Buy 4 20-foot containers that are already fully built up as office, and we can use them as classrooms. And we place them temporarily at the White and Yellow Cross Foundation in the St. John's Estate. The children will then go to school there. They can use the facilities of the White and Yellow Cross when it comes to the bathroom, eating, etc., etc. So that you have, for the next 4 to 6 months, a plausible solution. And we use the AVBZ fund to pay for this. The AVBZ fund right now pays for the daycare at Sister Basilia. So we have to look at the law and ensure that the law is adjusted to provide this sort of supplement to the education. Right now, parents are paying $500 a month to have their child in a school. Maybe the supplementation can then go towards paying for that. AVBZ can help pay for this so that the burden on the parents also is removed. You want to help people? These are ways that you can help. Instead of sending them to Prince William Alexander School or sending them to the vocational training school, because that's easy. That's easy to do. But it's not good for the child, my brother. It's not good for the child. So please, you all call Glenn Carty, you all call Breche Boutekees, you all sit together and solve this thing for the children, not for yourselves. You're a well-educated man already. You got that opportunity. Why deny the child the opportunity when you are sitting in the seat that can make sure the opportunity is given? You see what my problems are? These are the type of problems that make me sleep bad at night, because it bothers me. These are the things that irk me bad, because there's no reason to deny a child in need education. There's no need, honestly. So again, I hope that what I have told you all can be done. I spoke to to some of these people that I have mentioned their names. Not all, but I've spoken to some. And I hope we can come to an agreement with SZV and the White and Yellow Cross, and that we can use the teachers that were at the Ella institution to continue carrying out the work while the Ella institution tries to get itself back up and running properly, and that all those that need to assist can assist, because these are the people. Mrs. Brooks is one of the people that goes beyond the call of duty, trying to ensure that children in need are truly getting an opportunity to excel in education. Mrs. Brooks, let me thank you from the bottom of my heart for the great gift that you were giving these children, and that is called education. And people remember, where there's a will, there's always a way. Now, last week, there was this article in the newspaper from a judgment where the judge said, SFV, go back to the drawing boards, because you can't just unilateral take the salaries of people that are working in the hospitality industry, for example, and they were, I think, 3 businesses took SFV to courts because they were assessed 10% more of the salaries, because they said the people were getting tips and the company did not give that information to SFV, something in that sense. Listen, let me cut the long talk. Tips should not be part of your salary. Point. Right now, tips are part of your salary. I have already told my party that I'm running with the now. We will make sure in our manifesto that we will put down clearly that tips must be taken out of something that forms part of your wage. Because everything that is not defined in the law is considered part of your wage. So let's say you get a car to use, that's part of your wages. You get a telephone to use, part of your wages. You get a house allowance, part of your wages. I agree with those things. But tips, most of the people, listen carefully to me, most of the people working in the hospitality industry earn minimum wage, which is about half of the livable wage. And now they make $500 extra a month. You want to tax it out of them. Why? Once it can be 500, the next time it can be 200. Hey, some of them can even make 1,000. But you know what? Part of life. Move on. You don't get that money right now anyway. Don't fool yourself. You think, and you know what it's going to say? The worker must tell the employer how much tip he get. Well, every day I get $1 tip. That's it. You feel like, come sit down here and check all day. Because that's what it's going to boil down to. A waste of time for a little bit of money. Make it tax-free. Take it out of the law. Put it in the law that tips are not taxable. And then this whole story that we had a court cases for, poof, it gone. Because SSD wasn't getting the money anyway. Government wasn't getting the money anyway. So why are we making a big issue out of it? These are people that earning minimum wage. But we come in to beat up on them now. Why? Man, what we got to do is try to figure out a way to get taxes the legitimate way across the board that everybody pays for it, like import duties, for example, or transaction tax, or a VAT, whatever you all want. But make sure that it is across the board. Service charge. A lot of people take it away. You know why? Because when you get service charge, you go to a restaurant, you see 15% service charge. On that, the restaurant is paying 5% already, TOT. And then the balance is most probably used to do work or cover bills for the restaurant. People start to see that as tips. Oh, but I just pay 15% service charge, so I ain't giving you no tip. So the employee doesn't get a tip. So what did SFV do? SFV said, well, you see that 10% there? That's tips. So we're going to put that onto the salaries of the employees. But who said the employees got it? That's an assumption we make. And it's crazy. I'm amazed SFV would have done this one. But again, we all look at it from different angles. And maybe they're seeing it from an angle I didn't see it. I'm not going to say they did it wrong, but I'm just giving advice. Take that thing out of the books. Minister of VSR, Minister Otley, this is something that you can score big with. Take it off the books. Make an amendment to the law. If you do that, I think we're gone clear. Because when I look at Sabre Station Bonaire, all of those people that have one apartment by their house, tax free. Here, we crippling people with extra income. All I'm saying, look around. You all always like to look around and see what happening elsewhere. Look around and see what's really happening. Because we are not working towards enhancing the lives of the people. We are working at enhancing the coffers of the government. If that would have led to enhancing the lives of the people, I'd have told you okay. But it's not. It doesn't work that way seemingly here. So again, let's please do it a little different. I think what we all should do also is start going after the people that are not filing. Because there are a lot of restaurants that when you walk down the street and you go inside, you'll realize that they don't file. You don't even notice the name. You don't have that name in your records. Maybe you should ask them, can I see a SFV registration? They might even ask you, what is that? Maybe that's the group we should be looking at for now. And leave the small man alone. Please. Right now, things rough already. Businesses are struggling to stay afloat. They're really struggling. While we're saying it's a great season, it is not showing by a lot of businesses as a great season. Last year, there was 64% occupancy rate, and that was supposed to be a good year. Hotels are hurting too. So please, sometimes the little tips their employees make helps them live a better life. Why we want to take that from them now again? European law and Sint Maarten. Now, this is something I normally wouldn't have touched. I just decided to go at it because there was this case with a police officer in courts. I think he was suspended, then dismissed, then found not guilty and rehired. And in that period of time, because he was sent home wrongfully or dismissed wrongfully and had to be rehired, they went to fight that the vacation time that he didn't get, etc., that he gets it back. And they used European law for such because European law covers that. And then it was said here, no. Sint Maarten is not part of the European Union, so European law does not apply here in this case, in this personal matter. And I was kind of surprised because, according to me, the ILO, the International Labour Organization, those laws are used here very often. And those laws, the European laws, most probably derives from that. So I didn't understand it too good. But maybe a legal scholar can explain, one of these days, give me a call, explain that one. Because when it comes to the European Covenant on Human Rights, that does apply here. I have heard judges here make decisions based on Article 14, especially when it comes to unlawful termination and those type of things. And then I cannot understand how this doesn't tie in. If one place we are part of the European Union to be part of the European Covenant on Human Rights, and again, that's a law. That's not a treaty, that's a law. How does it work exactly then with the labor law? Because one place is saying it's possible, the other place is not possible. That's the confusion that caught me. But again, I am no expert, so just asking, for all of us that are not scholars, would really appreciate somebody shedding some more light on it. In closing today, the whole mutual agreement on the country packages and reform leaves a lot to be desired if nobody knows what's happening. The position of the second chamber speaks volumes, as the parties representing government aren't on the same page presently and have little trust in our being able to deliver the reforms. The secrecy in which this disguised kingdom consensus law is made into a binding mutual agreement by all countries is just a cosmetic name change, nothing else. Rejoicing early was clearly the situation with the news that Coho gone. So what's there now, people? Let's hope the Prime Minister tells us. There was another photo op taken, this time in Belvedere, for works the government wants to claim as their when it comes to the repair of the various Belvedere towers with trust fund monies of the Dutch. This time around, though, the Dutch decided to have their representatives there and make sure that the trust fund was also well represented. And they too decided to star in the picture. I believe what the government should do is start taking pictures of what they have done. And when they do that, they can claim that. They know what I mean, so hopefully we will see that. Same-sex marriages should be possible throughout the kingdom, finds the State Secretary, and I would agree that if everything is the same all over, like the pensions, the healthcare, the education, the minimum wage, justice, etc., then the answer would have been yes. But we are different in many things. So why are you forcing such right now, Madam State Secretary? Is this a condition in the making for the mutual agreements? We have prosecuted many people on the islands for the trafficking and coercion of sex workers in Sint Maarten. But I'm somewhat lost at how it's done in the Netherlands presently, as now the laws are being amended, are in consultation because of these same issues. So how is that really working? Once again, the arrogance is portrayed, according to the Ombudsman, that the Minister of Rumi deems it fit not to answer the people of the country when they are asking questions to matters they have a right to know. An ultimatum of April 19th, 2023 has been given, and we shall see what happens. The Beacon Hill story still hasn't really been told yet. But when they do the checks and balances in GB, and I know that report is finished, we will understand the behavior of some of the people in not answering some of the questions. Let me close and say that I pray to God that we find a solution fast for the special needs children and ensure that they will get the education they need to enhance their lives. Please share my podcast, and God bless all of you. Have a wonderful week and enjoy the rain today. Hopefully sunshine a little later on. Take care. Bunks is out.